A lot of people wonder if their child in college is their dependent or not. In fact, there are many other situations as well where taxpayers wonder who is their dependent and who isn't. Is my parent my dependent? Is my child that is taking a gap year from college and living with me my dependent? Look, the most common situation that I see is a child under age 24 that is a full-time college student. I'm going to answer this question for you and show you how to answer future dependent questions on your own. Please like this video, share this video, and subscribe to the channel so that you're notified when new videos come out. Thanks for watching. So let's jump in with a 20-year-old full-time college student who is your daughter, and you are providing the vast majority of her support. To do this, we're going to open up the Form 1040 instructions and walk through their flowchart. Real quick though, let's cover one more item. If your child does qualify as your dependent, can you let them claim themselves? The answer to that question is no. They cannot claim themselves. However, you do not have to put them on your return and claim them as a dependent. They still have to check the box that someone else can claim them as a dependent on their return, and this will have some effects on their return. Well, why would you want to do this? If you claim them, only you can take advantage of the college tuition paid and the applicable credits. However, if you choose not to claim them, then they might be able to take advantage of that on their tax return instead. All right, let's jump into the 1040 instructions and walk through how to determine if someone is your dependent or not. All right, so we have the 1040 instructions opened up and we're going to jump to the dependent section. Now we have the 2022 instructions open, but this part of the instructions is not going to change from year to year. So if you open up the 2023 instructions and you find this page, who qualifies as your dependent, it's going to look the same as it does on the 2022 instructions. So this is still applicable for 2023 tax returns as well.
So the question here, step one, do you have a qualifying child? This is the place where you want to start.
So again, we're going to walk through this in terms of a 20-year-old college student who is your daughter. So the first question is, a qualifying child who is your son, daughter, stepchild, foster child. There's a list of people here. So we have a daughter, yes. Qualifying child, yes. Are they under the age 19? Well, in our example, they're 20, so no. Or under the age 24, yes, they're 20 at the end of 2022 or 2023, if that's when you're doing this. Are they a student, which is defined later, and younger than you? Or are they any age and permanently totally disabled? Well, your 20-year-old daughter, yes is your daughter, yes is under 24, and we said in this example she's a full-time college student, so yes to that question as well. Who didn't provide over half of their own support? Okay, if you're providing for their living arrangements, if they've got like a part-time job, maybe making $2,000 to $5,000 a year, you're probably providing over half their support. There is some more information on publication 501 about this. We'll jump to that in a minute as well and walk through that. But let's say it's pretty obvious. Yes, you're providing more than half of their support. Yes to that question. They aren't filing a joint return. Well, if they're not married, they can't file a joint return. Most situations that I come across, they're not married. So the answer to that question is no, they aren't filing a joint return. And they live with you for more than half of the year. Well, you say, hey, they were away at college. Did they live with me for more than half the year? No, they were gone to school. Well, if the child didn't live with you for the required time, see the exceptions of time lived with you. All right, so we have a few options here where we're not real sure about it, which is probably why you have this question, is my college student dependent? Well, what we want to do is we just want to jump to those other places and make sure that we understand what's going on here. So the first thing that we needed to do is we need to define a student. So if we jump down a few pages, we find the definition of student. A student is a child who during any part of 5 calendar months of the tax year was enrolled as a full-time student at a school or took a full-time on-farm training course given by a school or state, county, local government. The school includes a technical trade or mechanical school. It doesn't include an on-the-job training course, correspondence school, or school offering courses other than only through the internet. All right, so any part of 5 months, a full-time student. If your student is taking a full-time class load, they're in college full-time, and they were a student January to May, that's any part of 5 months. Or they started August to December, that's any part of 5 months. Then yes, they're a student. So if we go back up, We now know that they're under 24 and a student. So we've said yes to that question. We looked, the definition of student is right there. They didn't provide over half of their own support. Well, how do we know if they provide over half their own support? If it's close, you're going to need to jump to Publication 501. Publication 501 has a lot more information about dependents, standard deduction, and filing information. We're interested now in dependents. So if we jump to the dependents section, page 11, and we scroll down just a few pages, we're going to get to this worksheet for determining support. So if it's obvious you provide over half their support, you don't really have to worry about this. But if you're not sure if you provided over half their support, you want to go to Publication 501, find this worksheet for determining support, and fill out this worksheet. As you complete this worksheet, it's going to tell you what to put on what line, and it's going to let you know at the end if you provided over half of their support or not. So once you do that, you'll be able to answer this question. If you did provide over half their support, you check yes to that too. They're not filing a joint return. We already covered that. And who lived with you for more than half of the year. All right, remember, they're away at college. Did they live with you? Well, let's jump down to exceptions to time lived with you. We scroll down just a few pages and we find the exceptions to time lived with you. Temporary absences by you or the other person for special circumstances such as school, vacation, business, medical care, military service, or detention in a juvenile facility count as time the person lived with you. Okay. So they were a college student, they were away at school, that counts as time that they lived with me. So if we go back up, the answer to this question, who lived with you, is yes. So we've answered yes to all of these questions. So now that we've determined that your college student is a qualifying child, the next question is, are they your dependent? And so for that, you have to go down to step 2. Do you have a qualifying child who meets the conditions to be your qualifying child? Yes, we just walked through all of that. Now go to step 2. Is your qualifying child your dependent? Okay, these are a little bit easier. Is your child a U.S. citizen, a U.S. national, or a resident alien? Probably yes. If that's the case, continue to step 2. Was the child married? Probably not. Say no. You continue to the next one. Could you or your spouse, if filing joint, be claimed as a dependent on someone else's return? Probably not. So if you can't be claimed as a dependent on someone else's return, you'd say no here. You can claim this child as dependent.
So now we've determined that your college student is a qualifying child and that they qualify as your dependent. So you can put them on your return as your dependent.
In this video, what we've talked about, we've determined if your college student is a dependent. We've looked at the situations where most college students probably are going to fall and still be your dependent as long as you're still providing over half of their support.
The key here is go to the 1040 instructions. The flowchart is pretty great. It walks you through it. After the flowchart, there's definitions, there's explanations. Go there. Jump to Publication 501. You can find a lot more detail there too, an explanation. You should be able to maybe spend a little bit of extra time, but you should be able to answer this question for just about anyone. If you have a more complex situation, you're probably going to want to hire a professional to help you determine if the person is your dependent and to prepare the tax return for you. If you enjoyed this video and it was helpful for you, please share it so that others can benefit from it too. Thanks for watching.